Fear of the new terror group Lukarawa in northwest Nigeria grips northern leaders as they ask for urgent attention. We'll be analyzing what is this Lukarawa? Who are these people? How did they infiltrate our borders and our nation? How do we fight them? And those who are agitating or advocating for a resetting of the state of the nation, asking for parliamentary system of government. We will be getting some insight in the national dialogue on the system of government we currently run in the nation. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to you wherever you may be watching. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimale here in Abuja. Thank you so much for joining in, everyone. Some very critical conversation for us tonight is a dialogue of some sort between you, my guest tonight, and some of the major topics that we need to dissect. So get closer, everyone, and let's get started. First and foremost, let me bring you up to speed with what is happening. There is being a national dialogue on the state of the Nigerian polity, and there are national leaders and leaders of thought who gathered here in Abuja today, discussing on the state of the polity, what system of government best suits our nation, and some of them are advocating for parliamentary system of government, saying that what we currently run is not working. Take a listen to some of them.
I am opposed to executive system of government. I believe a collective arrangement which parliamentary system guarantees is best for a nation like Nigeria, if indeed we are committed to advancing the interests of the large population and mass of our people.
Any system that we will build that will not make the people in power fear the people, but the people instead will be afraid of those in power, is an imperial democracy. It will never work. It will never produce any result.
It said today that the best form of government is democracy, and we have opted for that. So if we have opted for that, we must do it well. If our system is running badly, what is the position of religious communities and leaders in this mess?
I like the idea of the homegrown effort. This is a very key word, because if you borrow a system that has been nurtured in entirely a different history, social, cultural environment, it will not work for you. If we keep borrowing and borrowing and borrowing, we'll become enslaved by ideas and systems that do not quite fit and solve our own problems.
All right, you heard some of those speakers and those who debated on that matter today. It gets our attention on the program, and we'll be looking in more detail into it. Yeah, we'll look at Lukarawa. That is a new terror group that the military said has emerged in northwestern Nigeria. There are those who say, no, it is not new. 6 years ago, those residents and the locals in those areas are aware. Some of them allowed them in. The defense headquarters have said as much. How these people originated, we'll be giving you insight into how this new terror group, so-called new terror group, has infiltrated. How do we nip it in the bud and ensure that another Boko Haram, or if is it not as big as Boko Haram, is it as more of a threat to our nation as Boko Haram? How do we deal with it? We'll be getting insight tonight. One of the leaders of the region and as a very top security expert and consultant will be talking to us on the program. But then, before we get talking, let's check out some of your political roundup stories.
Electors in Ondo State have been urged to avoid selling their votes and cast their votes for the Labour Party at this Saturday's governorship election in the state. The presidential candidate of the party in the 2023 presidential election, Mr. Peter Obi, stated these while addressing party loyalists at a campaign rally in Akure, the state capital. Obi insists that the big parties have failed Nigeria and Nigerians need to look out for other parties that will perform well in government.
Nigerian people are poor. Let's start building a new Nigeria. Vote Labour Party. We have the best candidate in this election.
The United Nations women have asserted that factors such as life-threatening situations and forced withdrawal from Nigeria's last general elections from both the national and state level are some of the reasons for the low participation of women in politics in the country. The program manager for UN Women, Mr. Peter Mancha, stated these at a dialogue on women, peace and security in Abuja. He laments the lack of enabling environment for women in politics in Nigeria. The Adamawa State Working Committee of the All Progressives Congress APC has called on its members to close ranks and bring all aggrieved members of the party together ahead of the 2027 general elections. The appeal was made by the state chairman of the APC, Mr. Idris Shoaibu, during a stakeholders meeting with his members of the party in Yola, the Adamawa State capital. The All Progressives Congress Edo governorship transition team set up on 14 October to liaise with the outgoing administration on the transition process has submitted a report on its findings to the incoming governor, Monday Okpebolo. The chairman of the 25-member team, former Deputy Governor Pius Odubu, who presented the report to the governor-elect in a brief ceremony in Benin City, the Edo State capital, on Monday, says the team's recommendations include government looking into the state's level of indebtedness, carrying out a comprehensive review of the World Bank-funded Edo BEST program, as well as determining the true ownership of certain businesses. He also disclosed that the state-owned procurement agency reportedly indicted the outgoing government in their report.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Of course, we do know that President Bola Tinubu is in Saudi Arabia. He's in Riyadh for the Arab Islamic Summit, where he's been advocating for the end of aggression on Gaza. The president is one of the world leaders that have been invited by the leadership of the Saudi Arabian government to speak on some national issues. Let's get started. We do know that the acting chief of army staff has visited Sokoto State, and over the last few days, we understand there were attacks in Kebbi State in respect of the so-called new terror group, Lukarawa. Let me allow you to listen to what the defense headquarters once said about this group, Lukarawa.
Troops are confronted with a new terrorist sect in the northwest. This sect is known as Lakurawa. The Lakurawas are affiliated to terrorists from the Sahel, particularly from Mali and Niger republics. They began incursion into northwestern part of Nigeria, namely Sokoto and Kebbi states. And like I mentioned, they came in from Niger and the Mali axis. Now, why are we seeing this at this time? This came as a result of the coup that took place.
It's really tragic.
All right, then, that was what the defense headquarters said a few days ago. But the new acting chief of army staff visited Sokoto State, and he was on the ground as soon as he got into the saddle, and this is what he observed as soon as he got on the ground.
There will always be challenges. Now, the issue is how do we react to those challenges? So one of the reasons why I'm here is to charge up my soldiers to brace up to challenge, and that we shall do. My charge to the community people is for them to support us, because the fact is that Nigeria Army belongs to all Nigerians. And if we don't get their support, we can't succeed. And if we don't succeed, that means Nigeria itself will not be secured. And we need Nigeria to be secured so that we can have economic prosperity.
All right, then. What do we know about this group, Lakurawa? What does it mean? Who are they? How did they originate? This is the little that we do know about them. We do know that based on information and some intelligence, that they were once referred to as harmless headers. they were seen as herders, herdsmen who got into communities around Sokoto, Kebbi State. And 6 years ago, locals noticed the activities in Tangaza, Gudu areas of Sokoto State. Said to be a group of herders operating in the Marake and Zanu forest. Now, how did they now get to have infiltrated the area? This is a little that we do know. We do know that the military said locals welcomed the group into their midst willingly, and also that the group began to spread ideology after they settled into those communities. And now group have now mastered the terrain. They now know the terrain as much as the locals. Now, they've now imposed levies on locals and community people there. What is their modus operandi? This is what we know now. Attack on communities and travelers around that area. They kill, kidnap victims. They also demand ransom. The military, this is what the military is telling us now, based on the public information in the public domain. Now, the group from Republic of Niger in the wake of the recent coup, and that the group is linked to terrorist group in Niger Republic and Mali, and the group has infiltrated Sokoto and Kebbi. So we do know that a few days ago, scores of persons were killed in Kebbi State. Let's get some more insight into this. One man that has been researching and speaking to the people on the ground, finding out what exactly is going on, the nature, ideology, modus operandi, the orientation, the mission and the vision of this Lukalawa group. What do they mean? Why are they setting out? Why did we allow them to go this far? He's a researcher and on issues of extreme terrorism. Mr. Bulama Bukati, who is also a lawyer. He joins us from London virtually. Thank you so much, Mr. Bukati, for joining us tonight on the program. Give us an understanding. When I was speaking with you earlier on the program, you said these guys are not new. The appellation of a new terror group, according to you, is not true.
Yeah, it's not true, Sheun, because the group that are called Lakurawa today have been sporadically living or camping in the northwestern part of Nigeria for over 6 years now. They first started illegally entering Nigeria around 2016, 2017, but they did not stay permanently. What they do, and that's what they do till today, is that they move in, stay for a few months, and then they go back to the Sahel or wherever they are coming from in Niger. And from the information I am gathering, what could be happening, and this is my hypothesis so far, is that this is a group that is being fought by the Nigerian and the Malian military. And whenever there is a sustained pressure by the military in Niger and Mali, they move out of Niger and Mali, come in northwestern Nigeria in order to regroup and to recuperate and then go back and continue to fight in the Sahel. And they have been doing that at least since 2017. The Nigerian army was aware because in 2018, the communities reported this group that they are concerned for their security because there is a new group that is armed and the people don't look like Nigerians. And the police investigated and held a press conference in 2018, reported by several Nigerian newspapers. But if you look at, you search Lakurawa today, you will see a Daily Trust report in 2018 when the police said they have investigated and that these people are armed, but they are not violent, and therefore people should continue to live in peace with them. In 2018, they killed a traditional ruler in the Tangaza local government, I believe, or was it Gudu local government, in Gudu local government area of Sokoto State. And they were again reported to the military, and the military fought them in 2018 and pushed them back into Niger Republic. But then after a few months, they came back to continue their campaign, and that has been what continued until today. So it's not a new group. I think the Nigerian army, I don't think they deliberately misled the public, but I would think that they do have short institutional memory. And I think that is that speaks volumes about how they document their activities. In fact, even though the Nigerian army says it is a new group, even in August this year, 4 soldiers lost their life in a patrol in a clash with Lakurawa. And now we saw this attack on Friday, and the Nigerian army says it's a new terror group. It's not new. In June, 4 military soldiers lost their life in Gudu local government. In 2018, they fought the same group and pushed them back to Niger. And this group has been camping in northwestern Nigeria since 2016, 2017.
Now, give us an understanding. That word, Lakurawa, right? Is it an Hausa word, a Fulfulde language? Well, what does it mean?
It is neither Hausa nor Fulfulde. From the information I'm gathering so far, Sheon, and I know you would understand that this is a continuing situation. And like you said, I have been interviewing many residents and local council officials and witnesses. From the information I have gathered so far, the word Lakurawa would have come from the French phrase les recrues. That's the recruits. The French version of the recruits, which is les recrues. This is where the word would have come from, because the community members I spoke to said that was the name they had. The Nigerian villages that are neighboring them were calling this group, and this group, of course, were interacting with villages in the Nigerian side of the border before they started entering Nigeria illegally. And in that community, they were called Lakurawa or les recrues. And then from that way, the word was Hausanized, if you like, and WA was added to the end, and they became Lakurawa. This is the origin that we are getting so far. And I think even from the origin and from the languages they speak, even though they have been sporadically staying in Nigeria for around 6 years now, they still don't speak Hausa, they don't speak Fulfulde. All the witnesses I spoke to said these individuals speak either Tuareg, French, or Arabic, and that even when they are preaching or when they go to local communities to purchase stuff, they rely on local interpreters who speak Fulfulde or Hausa in order to transact with the communities or to speak with to communicate with the communities. And I think also the fact that most of the witnesses I spoke to said 80% of the people in that group are people who are fair-skinned. They look like Arab or like Tuareg in Niger and Mali. Speaks volume of the fact that these individuals may not be Nigerians.
So for the sake of our viewers, a lot of people who may not have traveled to that part of the country, Nigerian border is over 1,000 kilometers. If you travel about 100 kilometers per hour, it will take you about 10 hours to travel the length and breadth of the Nigerian border. So to give context to how wide and how big that border is, would you describe that border as porous and unmanned, or how insecure is the Nigerian border?
Look, to be specific, the Nigeria-Niger border is about 1,487 kilometers. That's over 900 miles. And to say porous is an understatement. It is open. It is completely open. You can go in and out any time of the day from hundreds of different locations. And of course, in addition to that, the terrain itself is challenging, because some part of that border is forested, some part of it is desert, some part of it is mountainous. And of course, because of the criminal activities going on in northwestern Nigeria, it is very difficult for the immigration and custom officers who are not very well armed and trained to secure the border. And of course, it is too big for even us to start even questioning questions about securing. 1,400 kilometers, I believe, is more than the distance from Lagos to Maiduguri, if my memory serves me well.
Absolutely.
And so it is a very big area of land. And in addition to lack of security, Sheon, is also the fact that there is zero infrastructure in that area. And so even where you detect particular movement that is suspicious, there is no transportation network to take you into the pushes and towards the border with the immigration vehicle or even the Nigerian army vehicle. There is also no communication network, good communication network. In many of these villages, there is no connection that is working. No phone service or signal, whether Glo or Airtel or MTN, and therefore they have to travel kilometers. Some of them will have to climb mountains before they can communicate. And in that situation, even when communities observe suspicious movement, they cannot report to anyone. And even the government officials operating there, like the customs and immigration, find it difficult to communicate, in addition to corruption and lack of equipment on their part.
So to give context, imagine that you are traveling from Lagos, you've passed Benin or you've passed Benin City, you've gone as far as coming towards Abuja, Kaduna, and there is no proper any check. It's just an open grounds, open field. This is how large and massive this terrain is. And perhaps there are a lot of people who know the terrain who say people just come from Niger into Nigeria without unchecked, because this border is so wide. And that's why I had to bring that context into place. If you travel 100 kilometers per hour, it will take over 10 hours to travel between the length and breadth of the Niger-Nigerian border. But let me ask you, Mr. Bukati, the much you know about the Boko Haram cell, compared to these Lakurawa, how harmful or how dangerous are they?
This group is potentially very dangerous, Sheun. Of course, the Boko Haram group is a group that became a transnational terror group, and it didn't do that until after it had operated for many years and had gathered experience and arms and money through kidnappings and other methods. This one is not up to the level of Boko Haram in terms of sophistication and lethality and their experience and their connection and even the number of fighters. But they are potentially very, very dangerous because, number one, they are already establishing strongholds in the northwest, especially in Tangaza and Gudu local governments of Sokoto State, but also some parts of Kebbi State. And right now, the information we are getting is that they are operating in 5 local governments. And I can tell you some of my interviewees are very informed, Sheun, and they tell me, one of them told me that there is a local government in Sokoto, Gudu local government. He says you cannot travel 5 kilometers outside the state, the local government capital without meeting Lakurawa, encountering Lakurawa on the way. And he says all the villages surrounding the local government headquarters are under the control of the group, because as we speak, they are serving as judges for local people. If you have a local problem, you have a dispute with your neighbor, you report to them, because they have forbidden traditional rulers from intervening in any dispute that is brought to them. And traditional rulers have no option but to obey them, because they would kill them if they don't obey their instructions. And especially in farmer-herder crisis, today, if farmers have their farm encroached by herders, they report to the Lakurawa, and the Lakurawa summon the parties, adjudicate the dispute, and order compensation against those that they find wanting. Members of the community whose cattle is stolen by bandits report to the Lakurawa, and the Lakurawa intervene on their behalf to fight the bandits, to collect their cattle back for them. And in exchange, today the Lakurawa are levying taxes in communities in Sokoto and Kebbi State, especially against herding communities. They stop you, they count your cattle, and they ask you if it belongs to a politician or a government official, they confiscate the whole of it. If it belongs to an individual, they charge taxes in percentages and then leave you to go. Now, they also, enforce other rules. For example, there are POS machine operators in some of the villages that recently were punished by this group, because the group said they were charging interest, which is forbidden in Islamic law. And therefore, they broke into the POS shops, they looted everything in the shop and destroyed all the machines. They are also punishing people who don't leave beard, and they are helping people who live beard with money and other incentives.
I'm being also joined by Professor Tukur Mohammed Baba, National Public Secretary of the Ottawa Consultative Forum. But before I come to you, Prof, Mr. Bulama, what is Lakurawa? What are they preaching? Is it different from the ideology of Boko Haram?
It's not different. It's not different from the ideology of Boko Haram, except that they are more like ISWAP. Because they tell local people, unlike Boko Haram, that we are not your enemies, we don't want to kill you, we are only fighting the government and its apparatus. And so that's what they espouse an extreme, violent extremist ideology, and they try to preach to local communities. But the good news shown is that my research so far, and I say so far because I am still researching, reveals that they have not been accepted by the communities. I have not found one example of a local young people who has joined them. They are still mostly foreigners. I am not saying there may be no local people at all, but they are still mostly foreigners. But they are large in number from the information I am getting. They are establishing large camps and show not only that they have heavy weapons, they also have drones. And they are surveilling villages and even military formations with their drones. And I think we should take them very seriously. They are potentially going to be a very serious security threat in a region that is already devastated by bandits' violence.
All right, give me a moment. I'm also being joined in the studio by the national chairman of the SDP, who is going to also be giving us some perspective on this matter. I told you it's a national dialogue of some sort. I'm being joined by Professor Tukur, who is the National Public Secretary of the Ottawa Consultative Forum. Thank you so much, Prof, for joining us. Give us an understanding. The worry of the northern leaders. When AF comes out on this kind of matter, it comes out to be a matter of national security and matter that touches the heart. What worries the ACF the most in this matter?
Very good evening to you. I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you, Prof. Please go ahead.
Yes, everything Mr. Bulama has said should be a cause of worry, of course. Like he pointed out, there are so many various aspects of it. From our information, and I've carried out research in that area too, this is not a new group. In fact, when they emerged in about 2017 and 2018, I think at least the DSS is aware of it. In fact, at least one journalist who came and spoke on the issue said, yes, he had a meeting with the DSS. At that time, when everything went quiet, we thought they had been chased out, only to be told later on that actually it was a deal that they should either leave or they would be attacked. And they decided to leave and ask for time to get rid of some of the cattle they possess, whether it's cattle they took from people as a cat or not. And in fact, interestingly, it was reported that they said the cattle were sent to Lagos to be sold. As soon as they take the proceeds, they would leave. That's one. But to come back to the implications, because I think Mr. Bulama has done a very good job of giving us a background of the situation. I agree with everything he said, and it's consistent with our information at our disposal here. I've also been talking to community leaders, activists from those areas who have been fighting banditry. This is an additional problem. But overall, this is a major and grave threat to national security. The other thing probably I can infer, and which is Bukhara has given some of the data, they are trying to establish a local, and I would say alien, justice administration system in these communities. We cannot have that. We cannot have that at all. If you are talking of Islamic law, Sokoto state has the Sharia law, but it's not the Sharia these people are practicing. They intervene in disputes, they enforce rules, they enforce trade codes, and our fear is they will go into other things, such as closing schools, such as closing clinics, and so on. The thing he said about the border is true. I delivered a paper at the Army Brigade here a few years ago, and I said if you want to protect the Nigeria-Niger border, which is the longest of any of Nigeria's borders, the border to the west, the border to the east with Cameroon, with Chad is only about less than 90 kilometers. But the Niger-Nigeria border is the longest, longer than even the Atlantic coast border. borders with the sea. Now, when you have a group like that coming in and establishing bases and putting in place a security and justice administration system, it's like they have taken over sovereignty. Like you said, if we want to know how violent this group could be or how much of a nuisance they could be, you only need to refer to the attack about 3 days ago in the town of Mera in Augi local government of Argungu Emirate, of the Kabi Emirate. You will know lots of 15 people in a day without proper trial and so on. It's a lot. And of course, they carried their own 2 or 3 dead bodies away. They don't even allow them to. And everything he has said, Prof, it's not a...
Yeah. Let me jump in quickly, Prof. Let me ask you. The ACF, Prof, the ACF cannot sit down and look on as it goes on. You have come out in a statement, but beyond the statement, the leaders of the North, I've spoken to so many, are worried about, they have too many on their hands in terms of insecurity. Boko Haram in the Northeast, cattle rustling, banditry in the northwestern region of the country, and some smaller terror cells around the region. But the question is, what are you, the leaders of the region, what are you doing decisively to capture and to tame this threat?
Well, we're doing a lot. One, drawing the attention of the authorities. You know, like my organization, the Area Consultative Forum, is a non-governmental organization with no judicial, executive, or legislative power. It's an interest group that believes in consultation. But of course, we do that with the interests of the North, within the context of modern Nigeria in mind. We have been drawing attention to some of this and the implications for our people. If I can take you back, when the ECOWAS, led by Nigeria, threatened to launch an attack against the Republic of Niger, we were the first to come out and say, no, you cannot do that. What Bukhari has not told you probably, but he implied, is that, you know, in some of the border communities, in some of the villages, the international boundary cuts right across settlements. So that you find, for example, in Dole Kaina, in Kebbi State, the border is the separation line is only about 6 meters. So you can shout from one house to another. You can go to Dole Kaina market. There is a triangle created by the colonialist authorities and still maintained by immigration people that has 3 sides. One side says Niger, the other side says Republic of Benin, and the other side says Republic of Niger in a spot. So you can see the difficulty. Like I said a few years ago, if you want to protect half a watertight border, you probably need the size of the Chinese army, so that you man every 500 meters. Otherwise, what he has said about the borders, what he has said about the footpaths and so on. Someone asked me what immigration is doing when they are bringing these arms. I said, no bandit will come to an immigration point and tell you, I'm coming into Nigeria, I've got in my bag 347 AK-47. They follow these ancient routes. They follow these traditional paths that have been there. Camels are used for smuggling, donkeys are used, and so on. In fact, even INEC, when carrying out elections in places like Gada and other remote areas, they use camels, they use donkeys. Is to show you some of the difficulties. The mountains in those areas are not serious mountains, they are hills. You know, this is an area that was under the sea in ancient times.
All right.
So you go flat, you could see, your eyes could see as far as 3-4 kilometers. To come back to what we are doing as northern organizations, and so many other organizations are coming, is to draw attention to the implications and to plead, urge government and all stakeholders to cooperate together and in a concerted manner so that this thing can be dealt with once and for all, or at least it can be contained. We call for specifically action by national security agencies. We said you cannot do this without involving communities, and especially traditional rulers. One of the things that alarmed me most when this new news emerged is my reaction was, this is one crisis too many. And I can't see how if we don't do anything, we can survive.
Prof, give me a moment. Let me quickly bring Alhaji Shehu Gabam into the conversation. Alhaji Shehu Gabam, politically speaking, governance issue, policy issue, when is this in a moment where we start to think about internalizing state policing, community policing in the proper sense of it? Or what comes to your mind in this very damning security scenario that we have on our hands?
First, it's a failure of governance from the national to the states to the local government. Because these things don't happen in isolation. The baristas have said it vividly. The intelligence he's shared is the same intelligence we have. Intelligence doesn't fall from heaven. The security agencies gather intelligence from citizens, from the community to local government to whatever, and they convert it into security and operational issues for precision and for what have you. Now, what you see is that a nation that has been compromised, foreigners will incur into Nigerian territory, take laws into their hands, kill Nigerian citizens, and nothing happened. These people are not new in terms of knowing them, in terms of their operation. They are very lethal, they are very dangerous people, and they have studied the system. They have studied other militant or extremist groups that have operated in Nigeria. And they are fully prepared to do the damage. First, they don't speak Hausa. They are not Hausas. They are not Fulanis. These are warriors from other Sahel regions that are regrouping. You know, and then Nigeria is a free zone for all sorts of criminal elements to move in because of a failed state, because of a lack of capacity to develop a sector that will reduce the size of the border. It is not that the border cannot be contained. It's not possible. We can contain those borders. You can create beats that can reduce the size of the border. There are technologies that you can apply, you know, to ensure that virtually everything that is moving is being monitored. How could people move in from Niger, from Mali, from other places, and invade our community? And you have governors in those states. You have directors, SSS. You have commissioner of police. You have brigade commandants. And you have president and commander-in-chief. And this intelligence have been on for a very long time. We are just deceiving ourselves, a great disservice to our country, in the name of trying to cover some of these outrageous, treacherous things that are happening to our citizens, being maimed, being killed, being kidnapped, women and children. And we are sitting down that we have a system, we have a government that is up and doling out statistics, what they are doing to contain insecurity. Is a deceit. It is not true that these guys can be contained. Nigeria, don't forget, Nigeria have fought and liberated other countries, including South Africa. We liberated Liberia. We liberated Sierra Leone gallantly. Nigerian security agencies have excelled all over the world. Nobody can convince me and tell me that we don't have what it takes in terms of capacity and intelligence to deal with this kind of situation. So
there was a conversation today about resetting the system of governance. Maybe that is the right time for us to start thinking about the system that works. Maybe restructuring, some people will call it. Maybe a retooling, a reshaping, a resetting the system. Whatever name and shape we call it, there is an urgent need for us to do something. But give me a moment. We need to go on a break. But I must sincerely thank Mr. Bulama Bukati and Professor Tukur Muhammad Baba, the ACF National Public Secretary. Thanks so much indeed for your insight tonight on the program. We'll go on a break, and when we come back, more about the state of our nation. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. National security has been the talking point, the conversation that we've been having, which has now dovetailed into the state of the nation. I've been talking to Professor Tukur Muhammad Baba, the National Public Secretary of the ACF, as well as Mr. Bulama Bukati. They were talking to me earlier, but now I have Alhaji Shehu Gabam, who is the National Chairman of the ASDP. Thank you so much indeed for your time.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Where do we go from here? Community policing, state policing, and now we have a constitutional amendment process going on. We have Lukarawa going on in the northwest region of the country, terrorizing Sokoto and Kebbi communities. Where do we go from here?
Well, Ishon, if we do not face reality, we cannot solve this problem. The state police cannot work in Nigeria right now.
Why?
Okay, let me tell you. You have states that cannot pay salaries. The governors cannot pay salaries. Now you're talking about a structure, a security architecture of the states, that the burden of providing the entire system of operation, ranging from uniform, ranging from barrette, ranging from boot, from arms and ammunition, from operational vehicles, foiling the vehicles, maintenance, is extremely very, very expensive.
But there are security votes.
Security vote, what are they doing with it? Go and look at the security vote of the states. Even the security vote that they are using, they are not even taking care of the vigilante. Every state there are vigilante. Are they taking care of the vigilante? You are talking of state police that will be properly armed, properly equipped to take care of the citizens, to secure life and properties of people in the states, and keying in the political aspect of it. It will create more conflagration than we imagine. And the only state that you can even imagine or think can deal with state police are not more than 2 or 3 that have a little bit of financial muscle to deal with that. Now, why are we going into all these issues? Was it because we cannot develop manpower? The answer is no. But simply because we refuse to apply a visionary policy that will create manpower for the Nigerian government. For instance, you have civil defense that are already employed in service. What stops you from training them, equipping them, and make them combatant force to deal with the modern challenges that we are facing? What stops you from dealing with aspects of the custom and make them operational and combat because of the situation we are facing? What stops you from training the road safety that are being killed on the highway because they don't have arms to stop crime and criminality? What stops government from arming them, training them to add to manpower that we have right now? So there are multiple channels of other sister agencies that you can develop their manpower because they are already employed. You need to equip them. You need to provide the basis for them to operate. Instead of, all these politics of who can control what, and then we are running into unprecedented crisis. We are losing the basis. We are losing manpower. We are losing citizens simply because there's no focus. There's no decisive action on how to tackle this issue. These issues are not new all over the world. Insecurity is part of a challenge of all societies, and they come in different versions. It's not as if it's new in Nigeria. In 1999, before the inauguration of President Obasanjo, there was a security report that have indicated in all the 6 geopolitical zones, there are likelihood to be an uprising all over the place. And when Obasanjo was in power, we saw one in Zaki Biam, where Obasanjo was decisively dealt with it and napped it. We saw one in Odi, where he dealt with it, and the situation went down. Now, subsequently, you have leaders that are weak. When Boko Haram came in, if you could remember, towards the end of President Obasanjo's tenure, Yaradua came in. What was the directive of Yaradua? Go after them, deal with them, clear them off decisively. Unfortunately, Yaradua didn't last long. And then Jonathan came in, politics keyed in the name of, it's a religious thing, it's all this and that. Before they discovered there was nothing religious in it, it has already gone bad. It has already started killing, maiming, and destroying the entire system. At the point, machineries have to be brought in for us to have local government election in Yobe and Borno states. So there are history of all this. Look at the history of Metasine when it started. Even though because you have a very strong mandate, the governor of Kano State, Leda Raja Obakarimi, who was decisive, he was in Enugu when Metasine struck in Kano State. But they have to fly from Enugu back to Kano State as the governor of the state. And they dealt with it decisively. What is wrong between then and now? At that period, we are not as sophisticated as we are today. Today, we have state-of-the-art equipment that we can deal with a lot of issues. You have technology that can help you in terms of security, in terms of monitoring, in terms of innovation, in terms of precise operations. Why are we not applying?
Let me ask you, today there was a national dialogue, and the conversation is rethinking the system of government we currently operate. A presidential system of government with a federal presidential system of government. There are those who are now saying that we cannot afford that kind of expensive, elaborate, luxurious system of government that they say is not working. Do you agree with those who say it is the parliamentary way or nothing?
Well, our presidential system of government was a copycat from the American presidential system of government. Why is it working in America? Was it that there's no corruption in America? The answer is no. There's corruption, but it's under control. The tragedy of our democracy is maximum corruption that have eaten deep. And most of the contributors were part of the system. We are part of the policy decisions that have wrecked the country where it is today. Now, if you said you don't want a presidential system of government because it's too elaborate, it's too consuming, it's too capital intensive, now other countries that are practicing it in terms of their own peculiarities and so on and so forth, what stops us from adjusting? What stops us from creating deterrence? An individual will steal trillions of naira in this country. We have a government. Nothing will happen. Nobody will call him to order. Nobody will prosecute him. Many of them that have stolen so much money are moving around freely. And you are arresting small boys for raising Russian flags. And if it was American flag, they wouldn't have been arrested. And you're asking them to pay 10 million naira. What kind of country are we running? Compared to what is going on. The National Assembly that you're talking about, how do you reset a country when the National Assembly is on the knees? How do you reset a country when the judiciary is on the knees? Who are the people that are going to do it? The basic institution that ought to have corrected this nonsense have compromised.
And which is?
Which is the judiciary and the National Assembly. Because the judiciary have the power to ensure that whoever is responsible and found wanting is being prosecuted. Now the National Assembly that have an oversight function to check the excesses and recklessness of the executive have compromised with the executive. Now who will take that decision? Now, you cannot have a different body apart from the National Assembly.
So for those who say, look, we do not need a bicameral legislature, or we don't even need a full-time legislature, that we need part-time legislators who are in a unicameral system or structure. Do you agree with that kind of debate?
I agree with it, but who will implement it? That is the issue.
So you mean that the National Assembly will not allow that kind of law to pass?
This National Assembly that I know and that you know, they don't have the courage to do that. They don't have the capacity. They don't have that patriotism to do that. If they can allow this kind of nonsense to be going on, the country is going down. They will be sitting down. You are talking about these same characters who sit and allow restructuring of the system to go on that will perhaps affect them. I don't know if you have attended the constitutional amendment session. I have attended one. I feel ashamed that at this period that we are, concerned with the gravity of the situation of the country, you don't have people who can sit down as the legislators, can understand where we are coming from, where we are right now, trapped as a nation. We are completely trapped.
What would you suggest should be the way forward if you had that power and opportunity to be at the end of affairs? What would you do?
What I would say is that for us to reset the system, it means that we have to engage in massive reorientation of the critical sector that will determine who will come to the National Assembly, who will come to the executive, and who will be governor in the various states, and which are the younger sectors. The young men and the young women, because they have 70% of the votes. And so long as we do not work on them, they don't understand the danger of collapsing system on their head, on their parents and their genius' head. There is nothing we can do about it. Unless we agree that we cannot send somebody to National Assembly who cannot comprehend anything, who doesn't even understand the rules of the Senate, who don't even understand what the Constitution is all about. How do you expect him to reset the system? You must send people who believe in the system, who understand the system, who understand the weakness of the system in the National Assembly that can stand up and ensure that they checkmate the excesses of those who want to compromise the system. Right. There's no any other way. And ensure that you elect a president who believes in the country, who believes in the prosperity of the country, but you cannot keep on electing halfback and putting in the sensitive position and you expect anything to change. There is nothing that can change the way we are right now, unless me and you and others believe that the system has failed, the system is collapsing, Nigeria has been taken over by non-state actors, by foreigners, we are sitting down, we have security agencies, the entire security of Nigeria are not up to 1 million, and we have over 250 million. Are we a serious nation?
All right. Thank you so much. Alhaji Shehu Gabam, the national chairman of the Social Democratic Party. Thank you so much indeed for your time. I appreciate it. But that's our show for tonight, everyone, man. Thanks for being part of it. I'm Sean Kimale. God bless Nigeria.